Welcome to the T-roh Show. Transmitting truth one week at a time.
Welcome to the 41st broadcast of the T-roh Show. We appreciate the likes and we do appreciate the subscribers. If you like the content, please subscribe to the program. So what we're going to talk about here is probably the elephant in the room, which everybody's been seeing going on in the news and all over the internet, media, and everything else, which would be the NFL. And then we're going to get to some real serious, subject matter. So let's talk about this and about the NFL a little bit. I think Stu had some things to talk about. You said you've been listening to them or watching them for 40 years.
Yeah, and that's a long time. You don't realize it as time goes by, but over that span, you can see the what I would consider the deterioration of the spectacle. Let's call it what it is. It's a show. But what I mean by the deterioration is not the quality of play, but some of the rule changes, some of the policies that have been adopted, and some of the political stances that the NFL has taken, particularly in my analysis, just a guy on the street. It started, approximately around 2001, around 9/11. And I distinctly remember the Whitney Houston was brought out during the Super Bowl to sing the national anthem. And I believe, we could probably Google this to confirm it, but I believe that was the first game that had the military flyover. And then, of course, since then, it's now 16 years or so. They've, each year it just seems to have gotten a little bit more bizarre, a little bit more politicized.
Right, and let's make sure that we're talking about the United States national anthem. That would be Manhattan Island. Just being very clear about that.
Correct.
And their company flag over there. So, folks, the real flag would be the 3-star flag. That's their what they would consider, since they're city states. That would be the George Washington 3-star flag. That's the actual flag of their country within their city states. The 50-star flag is the company flag. That's completely different flag. So we want to be specific about that. And they do have on Manhattan Island a national anthem. So if they want, it is a separate nation on a little island. So just so everybody knows all that. We also need to qualify that the NFL is a club. It always has been. It's a very small. It was created back in the 1920s, and it's a league. The league is a club. They have a bunch of teams under it. The teams are nonprofits. Some of them are corporations. Some of them are share stock holders, and that type of thing. And just keep in mind that a club like that, on paper, okay, on a legal standpoint, does not have to in any way, shape, or form play a national anthem or put a flag up. They literally don't have to do that. They could just start the game.
Right. So the first question is, why would they do that? Why would they agree to do that? What would be the benefit to them to do that?
Okay, from a club point of view, that club will be welcoming their guests. So they would play an anthem and put a flag out there, and those guests would all stand up for their flag and everything, and that would be out of mutual respect. That's all it is. But the club itself doesn't have to. Not by any legal terms or anything of that nature. They don't have to do that. it's good for, it's good for business. People go there, they think the team is theirs, and I think Tony was bringing up that narrative. The team is theirs, the we win type thing. If you want to state anything about that, Tony, as you brought it up a little while ago.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that people have a sense of actually being a part of the team. They win, they say we won or we lost, and that's basically what I was saying about that.
Right. So you're looking at a very good advertisement campaign. Whoever runs the NFL, behind the scenes, I'm not talking about the people that think they know who run it. I'm talking about the people that really run it. Their advertising campaigns and are awesome. They get people to actually believe they are the team.
Great marketing.
Yeah.
Great marketing, man.
Yeah, and there's it's the same principle as a national identity. See, the common individual has a national identity or identifies with their state. I'm a Missourian or I'm a Nebraskan.
Right. When
it's really just a personal identity. It's not a legal and formal relationship acknowledged, by both parties, etc. So,
right, it'd be cool. What advertisement or advertising rhetoric? That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
It has no standing anywhere. It just is what it is.
Yeah, it's just like a brand, like any other brand, like Nike or whatever. And people that like Nike don't say, "Hey, we sold this million amount of Nikes this year."
Yeah, there is isn't that interesting? There's definite separation between Nike and the people, and then the NFL and the people.
Yep, it's still a brand.
Yeah, where the NFL has nothing to do with the people. It's a private club.
Yep.
And they don't even have anything to do with the townspeople, or anything else. Hey, we have a team. No, you don't have a team. The owners have a team. That's where you got to do the separation. And right. through this advertising narrative, this private club is actually turned into a political organization.
Right. I mean, we have a team. What do you mean by that? Oh, you got hoodwinked into funding the stadium that they play in. That sits vacant. We've got a football stadium nearby, and they don't use it for virtually any other activity. It sits empty, however many months, 6, 7, 8 months of the year. On occasion there's a soccer game or something like that, but in general, we have a professional football stadium that sits vacant the vast majority of the year, funded by the city,
which is funded by taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which actually, to be honest, folks, if you're not a citizen of that city, if you've never raised your hand and taken an oath as a citizen of that city, you're not really a taxpayer. But a lot of people don't know that. If you're not a citizen of that city, you're not a taxpayer of that city. You actually have to have a share of that city, which means you're supposed to get a dividend check every year.
That's right.
So just keep that in mind. That is called a form of slavery. When you're a resident of a state, or you're basically branded a resident of a state, you are not a taxpayer of the city because you're not a citizen of that city. So the city essentially it's illegal for them to tax you, and it's actually a form of slavery. But a lot of people do what? We have a football team. We have a stadium. Our team, my team. That's called an advertising narrative, to get you to associate yourself with something that has absolutely nothing to do with you. If it was your team, why aren't you getting any of the profits?
Yeah, especially when they're walking around, advertising for free when they're wearing, their team's colors or their jerseys. They're not getting any endorsements from that advertising.
Exactly. They're sitting in schools, they're going everywhere. They go to the malls, they go to the stores. They have stickers all over their cars that they bought, by the way. They weren't
Right.
given to them. Okay,
Right.
that wasn't an advertisement endorsement. They were given that they had to go buy the stupid thing.
Yeah, and let's not forget, as evidence of what we're saying, they change logos, they modify shades of color, almost every season now. They used to do it, the team would do it once every 25 years or something, but now it's like every other year. They swap out one shade of gray for an alternative shade of gray. It's still gray, but it allows them to repackage and sell new hats, new T-shirts, etc.
Yeah, and really what it is you got a certain amount of men on a field, and they're all fighting over a pigskin. That's it. That's all. That's all that's going on in that whole thing. They get brain injuries, they get all this other stuff, but that's all that's happening. And it's funny that they're just taking a pigskin and running it down the field, past the line, and yay, I'm all that. And everybody cheers and all this other stuff. And that's all good and well. And then they go, well, you're missing the whole point of football. It's strategic and strategy and all these things that they do and outsmarting each other and all that. And then they all hide their mouths when they're all talking and everything all the time because the other side may see what's going on and blah, 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 blah. And it becomes what? A man drama. No different than what you call wrestling, pro wrestling. It's no different. It's just a man drama. It's the days of our lives on steroids.
Mm. Yeah.
If you follow what we're saying here, and here's the point that we're trying to make. If your self-esteem is so low that you have to vicariously live through other people, there's a much bigger problem there. You're susceptible to a lot of manipulation.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. Yeah, that's not a good thing.
That's a sign of sick society, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that I'm using, or I'd like to use this opportunity just to poke a few holes in the NFL.
Right.
I for a long time, being non-political, etc. I thought it was a wonderful thing, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people, and we're talking millions and millions of people, not just a city, that feel the same way. And they, as you were saying, they use it to live vicariously. And perhaps as part of an awakening, we can pop a few holes in the NFL just to show that it's not all that it's presented to be. I mentioned to you guys earlier, I'll pull them up in screen shares. We'll just quickly walk through, just a few things that probably escaped.
How people are being manipulated, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, right here, I'm screen sharing, so it should be showing up. And these are just, we're not going to get into these in depthly, but here's the headline, NFL denies the Cowboys' request to wear decal honoring fallen Dallas officers. Okay. So behind the scenes, you see they have the ability to accept and reject particular movements, particular stances. And, this was in 2016, so pretty recent. Okay. Next tab, NFL rejects a Border Patrol ad. So the NFL refused to allow a recruitment ad for U.S. Border Patrol. You can agree or disagree with it, but you know, the reality is that's what occurred. Here's one where they rejected the GNC, which is GNC is a supplement company, you know, offering their claims are that they're offering more organic, more wholesome vitamins and such than your typical pharmaceutical company. So NFL turned around and rejected their Super Bowl ad. This was just in February, right here, February. Next one I have is gun company. They rejected Super Bowl ad for a gun company. And the gun company, it says in this article down here, didn't even mention, right here, didn't even mention firearms, ammunition, or weaponry. Okay, so what was the ad about? Well, it was one of those artsy-fartsy ads. And it was really promoting here the theme of personal protection and fundamental rights. So it was kind of a political-ish ad, and this nonprofit that we're claiming now has transitioned into a political machine, rejected it.
That does show intent. I mean, it really does.
Yeah. Another scandal that folks may have missed was, there's Keith mentioned a couple minutes ago, these guys bang around, but ultimately it's just kind of a show, but they do get hurt and, they crack heads. So there's been a lot of talk over the past 4 or 5 years about concussions. There's been a few deaths, autopsies have shown brain damage, etc. Well, here's a congressional report that says that the NFL was tampering, trying to steer a study on concussions. Congressional report. Now, the NFL rejects that they were influencing it, but these are the types of things that the NFL is, involved with that don't necessarily get out to a lot of the public. There you have it.
So you have a private club that actually is turned into a political organization. So here's a suggestion if you want to bring this to light in the proper manner. If you're going to play president, declare them a political organization first, then go after them for doing what they're doing. There's ample evidence that they are a political organization. They have, I think Tony mentioned a little while ago, Illuminati. They bring in a satanic religion in their Super Bowl. Every time they hire one of the stars, those stars are Lady Gaga or Katy
Madonna,
Perry or something like that. Yeah, all those, Beyonce and all that. Her Beyonce's handler, okay, it's not really her husband, it's her handler, is a well-known satanic worshiper. So you're going to bring in a satanic religion into the Super Bowl when you have the most, what do you call in quotations, ratings, everybody watching the Super Bowl.
Right.
Which
absolutely
misrepresents the country itself, that the country is not a satanic organization. And it has nothing really to do with Satanism. Although the Satanists and the NFL would like everybody in the world to think so. So everybody knows that's a misrepresentation of the country itself, because the majority of people, and I'm talking about a good 95%, are not Satanists. Some may be atheists, but they're not Satanists. And so that kind of misrepresents the country as a whole, the people as a whole. So if you declared them a political organization, that would have been the proper time to bring up the fact that they didn't stand up for this or do that or blah, blah, blah. To bring in this narrative of a flag and a national anthem. Because when he did that, okay, when Donald did that, he turned himself into a fascist when he did it the way he did it. So it appears as if right now on the political stage that a fascist is going after a fascist organization, fascist satanic organization. That was bad move, really bad move to bring out that, oh, they're taking a knee on the national anthem, okay, and then starting to say that anybody that takes a knee needs to get out of the country. Okay, yeah, that's what Hitler did. It's real close to Hitler. I mean, they're almost about a millimeter away on that stand.
It's on the fence.
Yeah, yeah. It's not looking good for either side right now. And then all the people burning the tickets, and which blew me away. I didn't even know. I've never gone to a football game. I'm just not a football guy. Okay, I just thought it was just I thought personally I thought it was kind of dumb. It just didn't make any sense to me. I had more important things to do.
Yeah, well, and I think that's one of the important things that we need to communicate. Your typical guy. I'm asserting basically a generalization. I realize that, but football has millions and millions and millions of fans, and Tony touched on it previously. Hopefully, this turns out to be a little bit of a wake-up call, and some of these folks that live vicariously through football and have an excessive amount of their persona tied to it will now find reason to explore other things that are a little more meaningful for the human family and quality life and those types of things.
Yeah, I couldn't sit there, guys. I'm telling you, I could not sit there for more than an hour. I was like, oh my God, man, what a waste of. I would go off and do something else. This is just a complete waste of time for me. And people will sit there and watch for 4 to 6 hours of one game. Man, just shoot me in the head. You know what I mean? You got to be kidding me. You're gonna sit here and watch this for this long?
Yeah, and then you add on to it the folks that read newspaper articles. That's more time dedicated. Watch TV, ESPN TV analysis. That's more time dedicated.
Well, one thing this club has developed is a market or a demographic of people who, they spend a lot of time and energy into research regarding statistics, regarding the players' lives, regarding their health, injuries, surgeries. I mean, they know everything about these players, about that team's history. They can tell you a specific play and a specific game in whatever year since that franchise started. But when it comes to something like, do you know what your status is, or do you even know that you have a status, or do you know what chain of title is, what the significance of that is, or do you even know, or can you name one of the rights that you claim you have, and from what constitution, and how did that constitution come to be? In other words, the statistics that you know so much about in a sport, you should also know that much about your status, because status is everything. And what's happening is this club, through their advertising, through their marketing, is creating a atmosphere where, like we mentioned earlier, people feel a sense of belonging, like they're a part of that team. They are that team. And what that creates is an atmosphere where that's all you know. And everything that you should know about your rights, about your standing, about the authority of where that standing and status comes from, you don't know anything about. And guarantee that's not taught to you in the public schools. So this is definitely a club who went from a 501c3 to a politicized organization. And you really need to, entertainment is fun, and it's good that you like that. But when you dedicate that much time and energy into something like that and not even knowing your own standing, then I think it's a wake up call.
You don't, yeah, you don't even know your own standing, but yet you don't even know your own wife or husband.
Right.
You don't even know
Exactly.
your own family. That's 5 to 6 hours on a Sunday afternoon, or even on a Monday night football or whatever it is. You could be sitting there teaching your child something like reading, where majority of students that leave high school today do not know how to read. They can't pass a basic test to go to college, an English test. They speak the
Well,
language and they can't pass an English test.
Right.
at an even
I
more
mean, that's
local
part of why
level,
we do the t-roh shows, because we can't get our docs read.
you, you brought up the family, Keith, and you know, kids don't even know how to talk to their parents because their parents don't talk to them. They don't spend the time with them because they're preoccupied with statistics and games and even fantasy games. I mean, it went to that level where now it's a fantasy game, and that takes up all this time and energy. It's just
Fantasy football, yeah, it's a online thing, gambling deal. So gamble away your child's inheritance or whatever you claim to be able to give them. Gamble that away. That's okay, but it's just unbelievable what this. Okay, now take the guys who came up with this marketing strategy. If they would have done something good with it, imagine how great things would be. Imagine how a country could be heaven on earth when you take these same talents and move them towards something that's positive and constructive, a constructive narrative, a constructive deal, where go get shut the stupid TV off and go talk to your family. Go spend some time with them. It's going to be hell the first week because they're going to be very resentful because you've ignored them for so long, guys. Okay, you've ignored them because you'd sit there for 5 or 6 hours on a Sunday afternoon yelling at a stupid at the TV, completely ignoring everybody else around you. Or Monday night and everything else, or you go down to the local Hooters and sit there with your buddies drinking beer, watching, trying to make yourself feel like a man by watching this stuff. Okay, that's all that's going on here. You're trying to make yourself feel like a man, like you're a bud. I'm watching this, and you really, honestly, deep down, could care less about what's going on in that television. It's the admiration you get, bro. That's a man. He's a sports man. He watches sports. He does this. He does that. That's all it is, man. Deep down,
he,
probably
like,
could care less about it.
he likes the right uniform.
Yeah. And he could talk to his buds and all this other kind of stuff. And then they could sit and argue about what player is this and all that. And they're arguing about nothing. And you know what's happening behind the scenes, folks, while you guys are sitting there watching 5-6 hours of this crap on television? FEMA is bringing in cement prisons in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. And a lot of people are disappearing and nobody knows where they went. But you know what? You need to know what team is going to win or has a really good chance of winning the Super Bowl this year. And
That's
who's
great.
going to be in the Illuminati, a satanic worshiping organization, who's going to be in that Super Bowl and what you feel about it, because it matters. At the same time that you've got 200,000 homeless that are missing in Utah. Nobody knows where they went. Nobody knows what happened to them. And there are pictures of FEMA bringing in cement ships that are nothing more than prisons. And you've got a homeless guy telling you on television they're shooting and killing the homeless or the people that are in trouble. They've got another guy in Florida that got a ticket for what was it? A ticket 6 hours after the hurricane for debris in his yard, I believe it was. You see, while you're sitting there learning statistics and playing stupid games, you got a socialist dictatorship going on around you, which means
plundering your estate.
Yep. Stealing everything.
Yeah.
And then when they steal from you, guess what you do? You end up at the door of the government of the United States of America expecting those people, us people, to get you out of the problem so you can do what? You can go back to watching football and 5 hours of that. And then watching basketball after that. And hockey and all these things. So while you're sitting there doing nothing, everybody else does the work, and you know what those other people are going to do that are doing all the work? They're not going to help you anymore because you're wasting everybody's time. You've been inducted into a cult called a political organization, a cult called the Illuminati, and a political organization that entertains you from dusk till dawn.
To keep you away from reality, the truth.
This is
your slavery and your exploitation.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I was just gonna say this is your alarm clock ringing. Time to wake up, and there's no snooze button.
That's right. And let me show you something that you folks that were sitting there watching football, while you were doing that, I was doing something else that was more constructive. And you come to the t-roh show, you listen to it. We do appreciate the listens and everything else, but we need you to wake the hell up. Basically, get your head out of your ass. Quit worrying about a flag. Quit worrying about this, that, and the other thing, and deal with real problems. A flag is not going to save you, folks. Okay? It just doesn't. I'll show you something here. You want to see some real stuff? Here's some real stuff. This is called the doctrine of creature of the state. And this is when a municipality or corporation is created by a state legislature, and it's all created that way to govern your life, by the way, while you're sitting there and watching football. Okay, this has all been going on when you've been sitting there glued to the television set. Okay? The child is not the mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his destiny have the right, coupled with the high duty, to recognize and prepare him for additional obligations. This means CPS has no jurisdiction over children. Anybody know that? This research was found by one of the American Nationals. Child Protective Services is a creature of the state, and it has no jurisdiction over a family. That's how this advertising narrative has messed up your head. The state created a creature of the state, created a corporation called CPS, and somehow gave them jurisdiction over your child when, in fact, not even close to the truth.
And because you're unaware, you allow it to happen.
Yeah. You know more about football statistics, but I tell you what, CPS comes into your door or comes to your door and starts taking your children, you're not going to know what the hell to do. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to plop 5-10 grand down to a lawyer. They ain't going to help you for nothing. Because why? He doesn't have any jurisdiction.
But one of the first things that comes out of their mouth is, I know my rights. But they don't know which ones or where they are at or...
No, they know the doctrine of my rights. I'd like to see where that was written out. Where's my rights? You know what I mean? Yep. Where's that doc at that they would never read? All right. The corporation is completely a creature of the state. It is usually within the function of the creator to say how the creature shall be brought before judicial tribunals. When's the last time, folks, that you saw a judicial tribunal? Which means there's 3 judges. Tri means 3. There's 3 judges you're standing there before. How many people have ever seen that? Oh, no, because it's only the lawyers that have gone to the tribunals. That's a special privilege now. Did you know it was a right? No, you don't. You didn't know that. It's a right for you to stand before 3 judges, not 1. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes what happens to you when you stand before 1 judge. Okay, so a municipality is merely a department of the state, and the state may withhold, grant, withdraw powers and privileges as it sees fit. However, great or small its sphere of action, it remains a creature of the state, exercising and holding powers and privileges subject to the sovereign will. These are court cases here. Okay, it receives certain privileges and franchises and holds them subject to the laws of the state and the limitations of its charter. But let's talk about somebody taking a knee during an anthem or a flag being flown. Let's talk about that. That's more important.
Yeah.
Okay? The corporation is a creature of the state. It is presumed to be incorporated for the benefit of the public. It receives certain special privileges and franchises and holds them subject to the laws of the state and the limitations of its charter. To this day, folks, we have seen multiple CPS cases. Not one statute is ever written in any of their documents or reports. Not one. Why? Because they don't have jurisdiction over children. It says its right to act as a corporation are only preserved to it so long as it obeys the laws of its creation. There is a reserved right in the legislature to investigate its contracts and to find out whether it exceeds its powers. Municipal corporation is simply a political subdivision of the state, exists by virtue of the exercise of the power of the state through its legislative department, the legislature. Now, if y'all don't know what a legislature is, that's when you get on TV and you see everybody in a room of your state, and then they're all sitting there and they're going, aye, voting and stuff. That's what that is, okay?
Yeah, that's one of those channels that everybody
Yeah, that you flip over.
Yep.
The
life is
legislature
being decided on that channel, and they flip through it.
Yeah, they flip through that. Oh, well, that's just boring. I don't want to do that. That's just boring. Let's go watch this. Okay. The legislature could at any time terminate the existence of the corporation itself to provide other and different means. Okay. The city is the creature of the state. City of New Orleans. Did you know it was a creature of the state? It's a state political subdivision? No. Does not stand in position to claim the benefit of a constitutional provision in question, since its charter can be amended, changed, or even abolished at the will of the legislature. Listen to this directly. Persons are also divided by the law into either natural persons or artificial. Natural persons are such as God of nature formed us. Artificial are such as created and devised by human laws for the purpose of society and government, which are called corporations or body politic. The right of persons considered in their natural capacities are also of 2 sorts, absolute and relative. Absolute, which are such as pertain to belong to particular men merely as individuals or single persons. Relative, which are incident to them as members of society and standing in various relations to each other. By absolute rights of the individual, we mean those which are so in their primary and strictest sense, such as would belong to their persons merely in a state of nature, and which every man is entitled to enjoy, whether out of society or in it. That's called, they move those rights over to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's the definition of a UDHR. Okay? Now, listen to this. By stating the child was not a creature of the state, the Supreme Court was drawing a contrast between children and families on the one hand, and artificial legal entities such as corporations and municipalities on the other. Corporations and municipalities were considered to be creations of state governments, a simple byproduct of a sovereign exercise of state power. Artificial entities owed their existence to the graces of the state legislatures. Within broad limits, state legislatures could terminate state recognition of such entities at any time, particularly when the entities failed to act in accord with the public interest. Well, let's go to failed to act in accordance with the public interest. See, while you guys are sitting there watching football, learning statistics and memorizing everything so you can win the argument down at the bar with your buddies, and then you're the man, and that testosterone starts going through you and you feel alive because, I know and I was right. Okay? While you guys are doing that, this is what reality is. Anybody care to guess what that is? I was authorized to show this picture. Anybody have any idea what that is?
I can't tell what that is.
Maybe if I put that picture out, what does that look like to you?
Looks like a fetus or something like that.
That is a diaper.
Oh.
From a 2-year-old boy, of where he came home from his father's house to his mother, and that is feces. Bloody feces. So while everybody's sitting there watching football, you've got a judge in Massachusetts that says there is no evidence of child abuse and gives this boy to his father, puts a ankle bracelet on his mother that's trying to save his life. Now, how important is halftime show now? And whether Lady Gaga starts singing Above, So Below. How important is that crap now? And by the time this is all over, and this is what we highly suspect, that there's a pedophile ring going on with CPS in the courts right there in Massachusetts. And this is going on all over the country. 2-year-old boy. And some of the testimony is he was raped by his father while he was taking a shower. But let's talk about flags and anthems. How about that? Let's talk about football statistics, folks, because we know how important that is.
Doesn't sound so important anymore.
This is the kind of stuff that real grown-ups have to deal with while you little kids are playing, while you guys are playing football. And I mean playing in a artificial sense, because if you were ever out there on the field and they hit you, you would be dead. You couldn't last 5 seconds in there. What's that?
They wouldn't be saying we anymore.
Yeah, it wouldn't be we anymore. And they wouldn't be plopping down $500 for a stupid ticket, would they? And buying, what is it, $8 beers? So while you guys were out there playing around and learning all this stuff, they've reduced the courts to not a tribunal because you don't make enough money doing that, to one judge who looks at this right here and says, this is not evidence of child abuse. Oh, and by the way, when the mother figured that out, she took the child to try to save the child. And when she did, she was charged with parental kidnapping. That's why she's got an ankle bracelet on. And they gave this boy right back to the father. You see, now let's not gloss this over, guys. Okay, let's not gloss this over, people. You cannot have sex with children because this is what you do to them. That's not having sex. That's attacking them. And that is violence against them. You're beating them up with your genitals. I'm trying to put this as nicely as I can. I should be saying what I really think. So all the men that are not handling a situation like this, which you have to put a man like this in jail and then they end up killing him because they end up killing all pedophiles. Y'all are sitting there watching football because that's more important, and you're ignoring your own children. And while you're sitting there asleep, you've got a massive pedophile ring around the whole country. But we don't want to hurt your feelings, by telling you the truth. We don't want to hurt your feelings at all. And if what I'm saying here, you need some counseling, go to Berkeley. They offer counseling for that. If people say things that hurt your feelings. That's reality. You're looking at reality right there, guys. Okay? Everybody listen to this and listen to this program. You're looking at reality. You imagine how much that hurts? This was 3 years ago. Imagine what that kid's rectum looks like now. I'm surprised the boy ain't dead. They are withholding the mother from seeing this boy, and the boy lives 10 minutes away from him. They're forcing her to stay in the state of Massachusetts because she was reporting this stuff and they were ignoring it, and she knew there was something wrong. I have other pictures on this particular PDF. I can't show them. It shows his face with bruises on it. It shows his head with cuts on it. I also have a report here where the court ordered the father cannot smoke marijuana or drink 6 hours before he picks up his son. Cannot smoke marijuana or drink. He has to have a breathalyzer or some crap. That's a good father, man. Which means that he has had his son in his possession while he was drunk and stoned. But that's okay, as long as you order him not to do that. That, what you're looking at, is reality. And I'm awake enough that if that was my son, he'd be disappeared with me. Courts be damned. Condemned and burnt as the devil's den. That's what the reality is, folks. FEMA camps. FEMA's coming in, allowing, and this is testimony all over the internet right now, allowing homeless to be shot and murdered. Bodies floating down rivers. There's all stories. There are all kinds of stories on it. But let's talk about taking a knee during an anthem and a flag. Why isn't your president saying anything about it? This sickness comes from the top down. Anything more to say? Because I'm done. I think we made our point.
Yeah, I think the point was made.
Thanks for listening to the t-roh Show. Why don't y'all listen to this show, take an hour out of your day, listen to the program, and learn the reality of the world rather than your little dream world. Thanks for listening to the t-roh Show. If you please subscribe. If you guys want to say goodbye, that'd be great.
Enjoy the work week.
Talk to you next week.